introduction and a warm evening to all the participants for the session. And I convey my gratitude to Ernakulam branch and special gratitude to chairman for providing me with the opportunity to impart my knowledge on this export promotions available to the Indian businesses. So since we are running out of time, without dawdling, I would straightly jump into the presentation. Hope my presentation is visible.
Yes, we can see your presentation. Is there any way to increase the volume?
Am I audible now?
You're audible, but
Ah,
yes, let's continue, please.
okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. So as in the initial stage, as rightly pointed out by respected Sri Veeramani sir, the MSME contributes to 48% of exports in India. So it is very much important to avail all the benefits which are provided by government to the exporters and which will be helping to them as an survival of working capital. So in brief, we can divide or categorize the export assistance which are available to exporters under three ministries. The first is Ministry of Commerce and Industry, where we will get the benefits from foreign trade policy enacted under Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act. And under Ministry of Finance, there are certain benefits provided by Customs Act. By Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Industries, there are certain marketing schemes which are not directly related to exports, but these are all benefits for providing a platform to create the export and import transactions. So moving on to benefits from Ministry of Commerce and Industry, as I said, these benefits are falling out from foreign trade policy. So the policy is enacted under Foreign Trade Development and Regulation Act 1992, which was enacted after globalization. So the Act provides powers to central government to enact policy to augment the exports and regulate the imports. So under the Act, every 5 years the government comes up with a policy which provides the next 5-year plan of the government with regard to increasing and augmenting the exports and how to regulate the imports. So the present foreign trade policy was enacted in financial year 2015, and the actual time period of that policy was up to 31st March 2020. Due to pandemic situations, it has been extended till 30th September 2021. So the present policy as on date is applicable only till coming September 2021. And so we have to wait for the new policy which will be provided. I am expecting from the next financial year, which we can grab all the any additional facilities or additional incentives which are coming up in upcoming foreign trade policy. In the present foreign trade policy, we have 4 chapters under which we are getting exact benefits or remission of duty or assistance to exporters under present foreign trade policy. So the legal framework of the policy has total 9 chapters, where the first 2 chapters give us the general introduction and general regulation regarding imports, and the 3rd chapter provides the incentives to the exporters, and the 4th chapter for duty remission and exemption schemes, and 5th chapter covers for export promotion capital scheme, which is and the 6th chapter details regarding export-oriented units, which includes EOU, STPI, EVHTP, BTP, etc. And the chapter 7 considers deemed exports, which is not exactly as per GST, but there's a separate definition for deemed exports. And chapter 8 transport and marketing assistance, which are available for the agricultural product exporters. And chapter 8 provides for trade disputes and quality complaints involved with the exporters and the foreign parties. Under chapter 3, as I said, there are export incentive schemes which are available to exporters. So under the present foreign trade policy, there are a scheme called Merchandise Export from India scheme, which are available for manufacturers who are exporting goods. So when they are exporting goods, and if it is covered under the Appendix 3B, the list, Appendix 3B provided under foreign trade policy. If the products are covered under that appendix, based upon the country which they are exporting, the certain percentage of incentive would be available. The incentive starts from 3% to 7%, and the incentive scheme has been stopped from 31st December 2020, and we have a time limit of 3 years from the date of exporting the goods to claim these benefits. So as on today, you can claim the benefit of exports with relating to 2018, 19, 19, 20, and 2021 up to 31st December 2020. See, one of the basic eligibility to claim the benefit, which is procedurally we have to take care of, is that in shipping bill, the exporter has to provide his consent that he is willing to claim the benefit of MEIS. So it is very much important to mention such a willingness in his shipping bill for consenting for applying to MEIS. If he has not mentioned his consent in shipping bill, then still you are eligible to claim the incentive, but it will be on a longer route. So you have to face several disputes and litigation. Otherwise, you will not get the incentives in a smoother route. So how the incentive is being provided? The incentive is provided in the form of scrip, duty credit scripts, where the scrip will be of 3 to 7% of your FOB value, which has been realized in foreign currency. So once the scrip has been issued, you can utilize this scrip for the payment of customs duty. It will not include IGST at the time of import. You will pay only the customs duty using through these scripts. So which will help you to reduce your working capital flow for payment of customs duty. So in case if you don't have any imports, you only export the products and you procure only from domestic, how to use the scripts? So what is the option for you is to sell the scripts in the market at the discounted rate, which varies from 95 to 99% based upon the value of your script and the number of splits of your script. So you can sell those scripts and encash in the Indian market. And other benefit is that such sale of script is not subject leviable to it's subject to GST. The levy is there, but it is exempted. So you don't require to pay any GST on that sale of scripts. As I said, from 31st December 2020, the scheme has been lapsed. Why? Because as India being a contracting party with World Trade Organization, so one of the settled principle as per the World Trade Organization is none of the government can incentivize any of the exporters from their country in order to have an equal competition at the global end. So based on the case filed by US against India in WTO, where it says the MEIS is a form of incentivizing the exporters, whereas as per the settled principle, the country cannot incentivize its exporters. So the government, instead of cancelling the scheme, what they did, they have introduced an alternative scheme called RODTP, where it is provided in as a mechanism of refund of certain duties, taxes, which are not refundable to the exporters otherwise. So where the exporters are burdening up with them duties such as excise duty and VAT on petrol, fuels, etc., which are not being refunded by the government in any other ways, would be considered as a calculation for refunding under the RODTP scheme. So as on day, the RODTP scheme is under implementation. They have introduced the scheme. However, the ministry is yet to fix the rate of incentive as like in MEIS. As I said, in MEIS, you will get a benefit around 3% to 7% of your FOB value realized in foreign currency. Claiming this MEIS and RODTP will not be a tedious process because it is directly connected to your customs provision and it is linked with your customs shipping bill. So the claiming of such benefits will not be tedious as any other schemes. So under RODTP, as on date, from 1st January 2021, whatever exports are being made by the exporters, it is very well suggested to mention the consent to apply for RODTP scheme because that creates the eligibility for those exporters to claim these benefits once the rate is being notified. So if any of the MSE exporters who are making exports, so it is ensure whether they are giving a consent to claim for RODTP scheme. So as I said, the government ministry is yet to provide the RODTP rates. The present uh, status of the scheme is the ministry has
So
the
sorry
trade
to
forums.
interrupt you. Your voice is breaking continuously. If you could just switch off.
The video.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah,
Please continue. Please continue.
yeah. So as I said, the
Hello. Yeah, please continue, sir. Now it's better.
Sure, sure. So as I said, the present status of the scheme is to determine the rate of incentives. The Ministry of Commerce has communicated with the trade forums and trade association, including export promotion councils, to get the feedback from the ground level, from the actual exporters, to gather the data of non-refundable taxes which are being added to the cost of the exports. The list of input taxes which are being retained unfunded are VAT and excise duty on fuels, and VAT and excise used on fuel used in the generation of electricity plants, DG sets, and electricity duty on purchase of electricity, Mandi tax, municipal taxes, and uncreditable CGST, SGST, IGST taxes which are falling under section 17(5), where those credits are blocked and restricted. So these are set list of taxes which are not being refunded to the exporters. So we can make these list, and in case you are being tied up with any of the trade forums or export promotion council, you can provide this list of uncreditable, non-refundable input taxes, which could be and which has to be considered by the ministry for the purpose of fixing the rate of incentive under RODTP scheme, which will ensure that the industry doesn't lose any of the benefits which were received under MEIS scheme, which a very good substantial percentage of incentive. So providing all this data and submitting the non-refundable taxes list details to the ministry would ensure that the exporters are being provided with the reasonable rate of incentives under RODTP scheme. The next scheme comes under the foreign trade policy is that service export benefit scheme. So as the previous benefit, MEIS and RODTP is for export of goods. When it comes to export of services, the available benefit is SEIS benefit, which is covered under Chapter 3 of FTP. So the eligibility for applying under this scheme is that if the service provider is an individual or sole proprietorship, he should have earned minimum $10,000 during the financial year, or if he is other than individual or proprietorship, he has to earn minimum of $15,000 in the financial year. If he is earning such amount of foreign currency and his service is listed in Appendix 3D of FTP, where it covers almost 80 odd services. If the services provided by you are covered under those category, the major one which can be related to us can be the hospital services and hotel services and consultancy services, accounting services, legal services. These are all certain sample list of services which are covered under SEIS. So if you are providing these services and you are earning minimum of $10,000 or $15,000 as per the constitution of your business, you are eligible to apply for this scheme. So what is export under this scheme? So the procedure to export is also explained under SEIS. So the condition to be satisfied is that you have to provide either cross-border trade, that is you are situated in India and your customer is situated outside India, and you are providing service from here and you are getting the foreign currency earned. That is cross-border trade. Or consumption mode. Consumption mode is you are situated in India and your customer who are located outside India visits India just to get your services in India and provides you consideration in foreign currency. This is covered under consumption mode. So you are eligible to claim export benefits under these two modes. The ineligible modes for claiming the benefits are if you are visiting abroad and you are providing services. By visiting abroad, then you are not eligible to claim the benefit of SEIS. On what amount you will be getting the incentive schemes, incentive amount? You are eligible to get the incentive amount on your net foreign exchange earned. What is net foreign exchange earned? Is the gross amount of foreign currency which you have been earned by you from your business reduced by foreign currency expenses and remittances which are made during the year in the same business. So only on the net portion, you will be getting the reward of SEIS, which varies from 3% to 7%. And as same as MEIS, those reward would be given as scrip, which can be used for payment of customs duty at the time of import. And if you don't have import, you can sell those scrips in market at a discounted rate. And certainly such scrips are not subjected to GST as it is been exempted. Moving on to next benefit. So these two benefits, whatever we have discussed, are on exports on goods and services. The upcoming benefits which are available to the industry are on imports, where certain duties and taxes are being remitted. So one of the major benefits which are available under the foreign trade policy is an advance authorization scheme and duty-free import authorization scheme. So under advance authorization scheme, what is allowed is that you can import certain raw materials for the purpose of your production or manufacture, and you have to provide a minimum value addition of 15%. Then you have to export within 2 years from the date of getting the advance authorization. If you have done that, the entire customs duty which has been remitted at the time of import will be settled. So at the time of import, you will be getting exemption from customs duty and IGST, provided if you can provide a value addition of 15% to such imported products, and you can export those products within 2 years and realize the convertible foreign currency. And when it comes to duty-free import authorization, it will come in reverse. So you have to intimate to the DGFT at the initial stage while you are making exports. So after you make your exports, then the department will give you an duties credit scripts. Considering your export to be under 120%, your value of import will be determined, and on those value, you will be given a duty credit script where the customs duty would be exempted by using the script at the time of import, where the import is happening subsequently. Whereas under the advance authorization scheme, you are importing initially and you are making value addition of 15%, then you are exporting those goods. This is the procedure under advance authorization scheme. Whereas in duty-free import authorization scheme, you will be exporting initially by intimating the DGFT authorities, and then you are getting a script through which you can import without paying customs duty. And such duty credit scripts under DFIA can be sold in the market. The one of the crucial point under advance authorization scheme is that once you obtain the license, you cannot transfer the license. You have to use it on your own. Just like scripts which are available under other schemes can be transferable, but the license of advance authorization once you receive cannot be transferred to any other person. And once you are opted for advance authorization, you are not eligible for claiming duty drawback under the exports which are made under such scheme. Moving on to the next benefit, which is covered as export-oriented units. By just referring to the name export-oriented units, it covers all EHTP, STPI, and BTP, Biotechnology Park, Electronic and Hardware Technology Park, and Software Technology Park, which are covered under the term EOU under the scheme of FTP. So the concept of EOU was introduced in India 5 decades before, it's with an objective to promote exports, enhance foreign exchange earnings, and attract investment for foreign export production, and including employment generation. But when it was introduced, there were several benefits provided under the scheme, including direct tax and indirect tax. But unfortunately, all the benefits are being withdrawn for the scheme, and the present only benefit which is available under EOU unit is that they can only get the exemption of customs duty while they are importing. Other than that, there are no other benefits which are flowing towards the export-oriented units. And who can be an export-oriented unit? Either a manufacturer or a service provider can opt for being an export-oriented unit. A trader cannot become an export-oriented unit. And once you are a service provider and you are falling under export-oriented unit, and you are debarred from claiming the SEIS benefit. So as I said, there are no much more incentives which are there for under this scheme EOU, and the government is also not in the attitude of extending any of the benefits to present units, and it is in the attitude that they don't want to continue the scheme of EOU. So they want to shift the business to SEZ or other scheme called Mover, which we'll be discussing in the subsequent part of our presentation. So the only benefit which are available to export-oriented units are being exempted from customs duty and IGST at the time of import. Then only condition for you to be an export-oriented unit is you have to be a manufacturer of goods or service provider and have to earn a positive net foreign exchange. After all your expenses, your foreign exchange has to be in a positive side. That means you have to earn more foreign exchange than remitting foreign exchanges. And in case of manufacturer of goods, you have to ensure that your investment on plant and machinery is more than 1 crore. So this being an infamous scheme in earlier days, but presently most of them are being shifting from EOU scheme to other benefits which are available under foreign trade policy. And under the next scheme is EPCG scheme. So under advance authorization, you can import raw materials without payment of duties. Whereas under EPCG scheme, you are eligible to import the capital goods for the purpose of manufacturing the final goods or the purpose of provision of service. You can import such capital goods without payment of any duty and IGST, with the condition that you will be exporting 6 times of the duty saved. That means which are exempted at the time of import, you will be exporting 6 times of the duty saved in the next 6 years in over and above the average exports which you have already been making. So for example, if you have already an export turnover for last 3 financial years, then average of such export turnover has to be taken first. So if it comes as 1 crore as an average export, so once you made this import under a export promotion capital goods scheme, after the import, your export over and above the 1 crore, which are already there as an average exports before opting for the scheme, such additional exports has to cover up the 6 times of the duty saved at the time of import. So if you are sure that you can have an additional exports, once you import the capital goods without payment of tax, you can opt for EPCG scheme. Even for the EPCG scheme, there are post facto schemes available where you have to make the export first and then you will get the scrip as an incentive for the duty which you have paid on at the time of importing capital goods. That is, first you will import where you have paid the import duty at the time of capital goods and you have already made the exports 6 times of the duty which you have paid. Then you can apply for post facto EPCG duty credit scrip and you will be getting the scrip value exactly equal to the duties which you have paid for this capital goods. And this scrip can be utilized for payment of customs duty when you are importing subsequently. Moving on to the next scheme, transport and marketing allowances. This scheme has been recently introduced from financial year 2019-20, which are available for agricultural product exporters. So if you are exporting goods which are covered within the HSN 1 to 24, with certain exclusion, 2 or 3 products which are being excluded, but rather other than that, entire HSN from 1 to 24 chapters has been included within the scheme of transport and marketing allowances. So the objective of the scheme is to provide transportation facility, boost up, reduce the cost of transportation for exporting these agricultural products. So the benefit is available only when you are exporting as a container cargo, and the amount of incentive depends upon the tons of the container cargo which you are exporting, and also based upon the country which you are exporting. So the benefit would be directly deposited to your bank account since it is linked with the customs shipping bill. You will be getting the benefit based upon the FOB value and the tons of the container cargo which you are exporting, and also the country to which you are exporting. You have to apply separate under a separate application for under the transport and marketing allowance scheme within 3 months from the date of your export. After 3 months, you cannot apply for the benefit and it gets lapsed without any subsequent continuation. Whereas the MEIS and SEIS scripts, which we have discussed earlier, we had a 3 years time to apply for MEIS from the date of your export, and for SEIS you have 3 years time from the end of the financial year in which you have made the export. So unlike the scheme time availability for MEIS and SEIS, under transport and marketing allowances, you have time only till 3 months from the end of your exports. And after the end of the 3 months, you don't have any continuation time to apply for such benefits. The benefit gets lapsed. These are all the benefits which are available from Ministry of Commerce. In summarization, we have discussed totally 6 incentive schemes, which are all MEIS, which are available for exporter of goods, and SEIS, which is available for exporter of certain listed services under Appendix 3D. And next is advance authorization, where the exemption is being provided for import duty and IGST at the time of import, subject to the fulfillment of export obligation, which you have to make with a value addition of 15%. And the fourth benefit is duty-free import authorization, where you have an export obligation to make a value addition of 20% of the exports, and you will be given a credit script equivalent to the import duty, which could be saved based upon that value addition. And fifth incentive scheme was EOU unit, where you will be getting the benefit of importing without payment of import duty, customs duty, and IGST. And next was export promotion capital goods, EPCG. Unlike in AA, advance authorization and DFIA, which are available only for your raw materials, EPCG is available for importing capital goods without payment of customs duty. So all these schemes are available for manufacturers or service providers, subject to the case-to-case basis, but are not more available to the traders. The benefit is provided in the consent of Make in India system. So they want to promote the Indian manufacturers and Indian service providers. So these schemes and benefits under FTP are more or less equally applicable to the manufacturer or either service providers. The traders are not provided with much incentive scheme under foreign trade policy, whereas under Ministry of Finance, certain benefits are provided under Customs Act for exporter, irrespective of whether he is a manufacturer or a trader. But it's applicable only for the person who are dealing with goods, and service providers are not covered under following benefit schemes. So under Customs Act, we have duty drawback scheme, where the import duty paid at the time of import are being partially reimbursed through certain way to the exporters. So under Customs Act, we have 2 sections related to drawback. There's section 74 drawback and section 75 drawback. The difference between these 2 sections are section 74 drawback applies to those exporters who are exporting the same product which they have imported. The reason could have been a quality issue, or they don't want the product. They would be re-exporting the imported product as it is in the same form without converting or processing the goods. Whereas under section 75, the drawback applies in such scenario where the goods have been imported by the importers and used in the manufacture of certain products which are being exported subsequently. So section 75 applies for those exporters who are importing certain goods and they are utilizing for manufacturing of the final product, and those final products are being exported, whereas section 74 deals with those products which are being re-exported, previously which was imported, are being re-exported as it is in the same form. So in section 74, so once you are re-exporting the same goods which you have imported earlier, you will be getting a drawback of 98% of customs duty which you have paid earlier, provided the time limit to apply for this duty drawback is 2 years from the date of export. The main difference between section 74 duty drawback and 75 duty drawback is, under 74 duty drawback, you have to apply application for drawback separately. It is not an automatic application. You have to apply separately for getting duty drawback under 74. So if you are re-importing as it is without any usage, you will be getting 98% of your customs duty, whatever you have paid at the time of import. And if you apply for the duty drawback within 2 years from the date of export, where you have used the goods and after usage you came to know or you want to re-export the goods due to some issues, still you are eligible to claim duty drawback since under 74, since you are exporting under the same format. Whereas because you have used the goods, there will be certain depreciated value on which you will be getting the benefit of duty drawback. So if you have used the goods in certain manner and you are re-exporting within 3 months from the date of your import, you will be entitled to claim the benefit of 95% of your total customs duty that will be reimbursed, and you can claim the benefit up to 18 months. If you have used the goods up to 18 months and then you are re-exporting, you will be getting the benefit up to 60% of your customs duty. After 18 months of usage, you will be not getting any reimbursement of your customs duty, whatever you have paid at the time of import. So the time limit for using the goods which you have imported to re-export and claim the duty drawback is 18 months from the date of import. Now moving on to duty drawback under section 75. This is a general duty drawback which are being claimed by all the exporters. So under section 75, there are two types of duty drawback, which is all industry rate duty drawback and branded rate duty drawback. The benefit of all industry rate duty drawback is available to all exporters, provided it is been covered under the duty drawback rate schedule. Recently, Customs Notification 56/2020 from October 2020, which has been notified during October 2020, provides for the duty drawback rate. So if your product is covered under the duty drawback rate schedule, as per the notification 56/2020, you are eligible to claim duty drawback on the export, whatever you are making. And the percentage based on your FOB value of export will be paid to your bank account, which is being linked to the customs department for the purpose of claiming this duty drawback. You don't need to apply separately. It is an automatical process. Just once you file the shipping bill itself will be treated as an application for duty drawback, and the system will automatically process the application, and the duty drawback would be credited to your bank account within 3 to 7 days from the date of your export. Under all industry rate of duty drawback, you doesn't require to prove anything to the department that you have imported certain goods for the purpose of exporting. So the all industry rate duty drawback is available for general exporters, provided your goods are covered under the duty drawback rate schedule. Whereas brand rate of duty drawback can be applied in certain scenarios where you have actually imported goods and you have actually incurred the customs duty as a cost in your manufacturing or production, and the all industry rate duty drawback applicable for that product, or the rate is not being notified, that all industry duty drawback, or the rate notified under AAR is not covering the 80% of your customs duty paid for the purpose of making such exports, then you can apply for duty drawback under brand rate, where you have to submit all the evidences that you have paid customs duty during procurements, and the duty drawback which is been notified under AAR doesn't cover up at least 80% of the customs duty whatever you have paid for the purpose of export, or the rate has not been notified at all in AAR, then you can apply for brand rate duty drawback. The duty drawback under AAR will cover approximately from 1.9% to 2% on your FOB value of exports. So which will be much more substantial, because the customs duty is paid on the raw material, and the raw material is being used in the process, and there will be a certain value addition. So the value under which you are exporting will be inclusive of your profit margin. So the 2% duty drawback is provided even on your profit margin. So if the AAR rate, if it is not substantially covering your 80% of your actually paid customs duty, then you can go for brand rate of duty drawback. For the purpose of claiming AAR duty drawback, you doesn't require to submit any evidence or prove to the department that you have incurred customs duty, incidence of customs duty during your procurements. The next benefit apart from duty drawback, the recent scheme which has been notified by customs is manufacturing and other operations in warehouse regulations mover scheme. So this scheme is an excellent replacement for your EOU scheme, where in under export oriented unit, the only benefit whatever you have got is exemption from import duty, customs duty and IGST. And there are certain conditions that for manufacturers, you have to have an investment of 1 crores and you have to maintain foreign positive net foreign earnings. Whereas under mover scheme, this is introduced basically to expand the idea of Invest India scheme. So under mover scheme, there are no certain export obligations or no conditions on your investment or your foreign earnings or any value addition you have to be made. Mover scheme is eligible for any manufacturer or any operation providers, process providers on certain goods. So the benefit of the scheme is that at the time of import, you don't require to pay customs duty or IGST, provided that you have to create a private bonded warehouse, which can be your own factory. Whereas for the purpose of getting your premises as covered under the private bonded warehouse, there are certain procedures which are provided under the mover scheme. You have to follow and fulfill those conditions. And if your factory or the premises in which you are making the process or manufacturer are eligible to claim as a private bonded warehouse facility, then you can get a license of mover and you doesn't require to pay any customs duty or IGST at the time of import. So what is the benefit? So after importing, until the goods are there in warehousing, you doesn't require to pay any customs duty or IGST at the time of import. And if you are exporting the goods, whatever you have manufactured, the exemption will be settled thereupon. So you don't need to worry about the customs duty or IGST. Whereas if you are selling it domestically, you need to pay the customs duty and IGST only on the date of clearance to DTA. So what the exact advantage the mover scheme provides the deferment of your working capital. You don't require to incur cash flow for the purpose of paying your customs duty and IGST at the time of import, and you pay only at the time of sales where you are recovering from your customer. So it actually helps to work upon your working capital analysis to the entrepreneurs, and it actually helps where you are setting a new business where you require to import heavy capital goods and you don't want to invest so much amount as a customs duty and IGST, then you can actually look upon opting for the scheme of mover. So you don't require to pay customs duty and IGST at the time of import. You pay only if you are clearing it to domestic India, or if you are exporting it back from India, then you are not even bothered about the customs duty and IGST which have been exempted at the time of import. The concern has to be given only when you are supplying in India. So at the time of supply, you have to reverse the proportionate customs duty and IGST what was availed as an exemption at the time of import, which can be recovered from your customers and payback. So the major advantage would be the deferment of your working cash flow, and the IGST whatever you are paying at the time of domestic sale is being creditable to you and your customer. You can take credit only. The customs duty will become your cost portion at the time of supply within India. If you are exporting, don't require to bother or concerned about the exemption availed for customs duty and IGST at the time of import. And other benefit under this mover scheme is, unlike the other schemes of EOU, EPCG, advance authorization, under mover scheme, you doesn't require to comply with the perplexed documentation. You have to file only a monthly return, and you can get the mover scheme license by a simple single application. And once you fulfill the conditions and eligibility as per the provided details and have a proper infrastructure facility with a secured premises where you can ensure the safety of the goods which are being imported and have a proper accounting of system, you will be given license, and you just require to file a monthly return with regards to your purchase and sales. Sales could be either export or domestic clearance. Whereas you are clearing in domestic India, you have to ensure that you are repaying back the proportionate customs duty and IGST incurred on such imports. And the other benefit is you don't require to find a new place. You can get the license wherever you are operating as on date. You can convert your own premises as an private bond warehouse facility, which is covered under this mover scheme. And for the purpose of clearance and the export or domestic clearance, you doesn't require any regular visit by customs officer. The customs officer does not require to verify each and every transaction of that mover, whereas they will have a periodical audit which would be made under risk-based approach. So they will select as like how the GST audit happens. The customs authorities would select the certain license holders based on their risk-based management in their system, and only those license holders will be audited and in a periodical basis. And over a period of time, the entire license holders would have been covered under the audit by customs officers. So who should go for the scheme of mover? If you are importing substantial quantity of your raw materials and you have a high holding period of your raw material, you have a higher circle period of your working capital cycle, you can think of going for mover scheme. If you are importing capital goods which you never move from your factory, and you will be using the capital goods for production of goods, which could be either exported or domestically cleared. For those products, you can actually look upon importing of capital goods under the mover scheme, because you are saving a heavy amount of customs duty and IGST at the time of import. And if you are establishing or expanding your business or constructing a new plant, then you can look upon, analyze the benefit of mover scheme. Whereas if your duty drawback, AR duty drawback is much more beneficial than the import duty whatever you are paying, then you don't require to look for a mover scheme, because once you opted for mover scheme, you are not eligible to claim the duty drawback. So this applies to other schemes of foreign trade policy also. If you opted for if you are an EOU, EPCG license holder or advance authorization license holder, then you may not be eligible to claim the duty drawback. Surprisingly, traders can also avail the benefit of mover, but there will not be any benefit specifically for them, because they have to pay interest for warehousing. Whereas for manufacturers or the person who are processing the goods in their factory, they can hold the raw material for eventual period until it is been cleared. Whereas for traders, the normal warehousing provisions and facility applies. So they can hold only for 2 months, after which the interest and for customs duty will start counting. So at the time of clearance, they have to pay along with interest. So actually for traders, the substantial benefit is not there, or any new benefits provided under mover scheme. The benefit is for them, those who are manufacturer or any other operation process providers on the goods. What could be other process? Even a packaging can be covered as a process, and it can be covered under mover scheme. So even if you are packing the goods, if you are assembling the goods, or any process, job working, repairing, any process, whatever you are making, you can get covered under the mover scheme, and you can get the benefit of non-payment of customs duty and IGST at the time of import. The other benefit which covered under customs is authorized economic operator. But the authorized economic operator scheme does not give you any exemption from payment of tax or remission of duty, whereas it provides certain privileges for you at the time of import, and also provides certain self-certification basis, whereas other exporters or importers requires to get a certificate from customs authorities. Whereas once you are being an authorized economic operator, you can self-certify on your own, and your certificate would be treated as valid certificate by the customs authorities. And moving on to the next benefit, the last benefit which I am going to cover in my session, which is provided under Ministry of MSME, is marketing assistance scheme.
Sorry, Sudharajanji, can we, if it is okay, can we wind up in 2 minutes or so, sir?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, exactly. So this is the last scheme, last slide. So under market assistance scheme, the scheme provides reimbursement of expenses if the MSMEs are into the certain activities which are provided here. If you are organizing an international technology exhibitions, or if you are participating in international exhibitions or domestic exhibitions in India, for expanding your business, or if you are incurring any advertisement or making campaigns or any marketing promotion events with relation to your business, you can apply for market assistance scheme to National Small Industry Corporation, where you will be getting the reimbursement of the actual expense incurred, which could be around from 25% to 85% of your total expenses incurred with relating to space rental, airfare, advertisement charges, and any campaign charges, whatever you have made. So I have tried to cover briefly of the benefits which are available to exporters and also the benefits available to MSME in the short period of time, whatever allotted to me. These schemes required a detailed elaboration, and each scheme can be conducted in a separate session. So I have tried to summarize a maximum for the benefit of our members. And for if you have any clarifications or queries, you can get it clarified at the end of the session. Or if we don't have if we couldn't clarify due to paucity of time, you can mail it to me whenever time you can, and we will be getting clarified this time. Thank you all. Now you can move to the next session.